Welcome back to the Angry Man Podcast with Jason and Greg. So, Jay, we got a big fight this weekend. Sergey Bohachuk versus my guy, Virgil Ortiz. I'm excited to see Virgil Ortiz get back into the ring, Jay. We got a very deep division, 154 pounds. And if Virgil Ortiz is successful in this fight, Jay, he has an opportunity to, fight Terence Crawford. That's what we heard from Turkey Al-Sheikh. He talked about that fight. That's one of the fights that he's interested in making, and maybe that's the fight that's going to be next. But even if that's not the fight that's going to be next, there are plenty of options out there. But, right now, I feel like Golden Boy is pushing him in that direction. We know that when he was at 147 pounds, I will readily admit that they did not want that fight with Terence Crawford. But it seems like they do today. We saw an interview today with Bernard Hopkins, and he talked a little bit about this fight. And I think that's the fight that he's interested in seeing, and he believes that Virgil Ortiz can do extremely well in a fight against Terence Crawford. Now, of course, he said don't let the performance against Majumal fool you. Terence Crawford is going to be a player at 154 pounds, but he do believe his guy, Virgil Ortiz, my guy as well, would have a shot. So that's a pretty good fight for him. But even if that fight doesn't materialize, Jay, what about the fight with Tim Tszyu if he gets the opportunity to win the IBF title? There's just a number of fights out there. Sebastian Fundora. I'm excited about what I'm seeing at 154. It's one of the deeper divisions. And 54, historically, all of those guys have fought each other. I don't know what it is in the water at 54, but they fight each other. So it'll be interesting to see what fights develop here in the next few weeks. Jay, what's your thoughts on what Bernard Hopkins had to say in regards to Terence Crawford being the possibility, and then just in general, the possibilities that we see at 154 pounds?
Yeah, I understand what he was mentioning by saying, it's kind of ridiculous with Bud and Canelo just due to the size. He saw Bud struggle. He won the fight, yes, but he won, the Bud that people seen at other lower weight classes at 154. So if he's struggling with 154, and I know people gonna say, well, Marjorie doesn't fight nothing like Canelo. No, Sherlock. Of course he doesn't. He only had 11 fights. We know Canelo is a whole different type of breed at that level, especially at 168. And I'm not a Canelo fan, but it's just the real. Bernard was actually talking the truth about that. They make weight division for a reason. At 154, I prefer Bud just stay at 154 because there's a lot of good fights. Like you mentioned, it's a lot of good fights. Hell, Jermell Charlo come back. We'll see what he looks like. We know what he looked like at 154. We know also what he looked like when he went up to 168. Wasn't the best look for him at 168, but at 154, you got to give Jermell Charlo credit. He was the king of the division. He earned it. He was undisputed there. He fought everybody. To your point, 154, everybody fights everyone. There are competitive fights, and the top fighters are fighting each other. Lubin was fighting people. Harrison was fighting. Mel Charlo. Castaño was fighting. Tszyu, Fundora. The list goes on and on and on. So we get good fights at 154. That's one division that they don't mess around. They get into business, get the business done. So I would like to see him at that weight class, stay there, fight around, and we'll see what happens. Who knows? It could be another rematch with Spence and Bud sometime next year. If Spence gets a fight with Fundora and wins a belt, and Bud truly wants to be undisputed for a third time at another weight class, he'll have to go through him one way or another, right? So we'll see. But 154, it's a deep division with the addition of Bud, and we'll see what Spence looks like whenever he fights again. More likely later this year against Fundora.
Yeah, that's a fight that I hadn't thought about that could probably do big numbers. Errol Spence versus Virgil Ortiz in Texas.
That'd do huge numbers.
Yeah, that would do big numbers there. And both gentlemen are from Texas. They've exchanged words in the past. Apparently, they've been in the same gym at some point, because I remember Errol referring to Virgil as a little kid that was crying in the gym or something to that effect. And so now that they're both in the same weight class and from the same area, I think that could be a really big fight there. So, man, there's just so much going on in that division. And there's just the potential for so many big fights. I really don't know how it's going to play out. Tim Tszyu is fighting for the opportunity to win the IBF title. If if Virgil Ortiz, when he becomes the WBC, which title is he with? Because no, Sebastian Fundora is WBC and WBO. Tim Tszyu is fighting for the IBF. So what belt? Because Terrence is WBA now. He's fighting for a belt right now, though. Do you recall?
Right now, this is for the WBC Intern World Super Belter.
Okay,
So
WBC Intern.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I felt like it was the WBC, but I couldn't recall because I know Sebastian Fundora is a WBC champion. But all these guys are in there. They're all in the mix. They're all possible fights that can be made. A lot of interesting fights, and we'll see if the fights get made. There's been a lot of people that have been talking about, wanting to fight each other for a very long time. I'm not going to throw names out there, but actually I will. I just talked about two of them. I mean, we've heard Vergil talking about Errol and the fact that they could have a fight in Cowboy Stadium. So he's been throwing Errol's name out there. We'll see if Errol would actually be interested in fighting him. We've seen Tim Tszyu throwing out everybody's name. Honestly, I'm sure he wants a rematch with Fundora. He's talked about Crawford. They had a fight scheduled with he and Ortiz that was supposed to be on this lackluster card this past Saturday that lost $10 million. And then we've heard Crawford talk about the fact that he wants to fight Jermell Charlo. So, I mean, there's so many options. And Mel has talked about fighting Terence Crawford as well. So many options there. And now that they're all there, we'll see who really wanted to fight and who was just, wolf tickets. Isn't that what they used to call it? Wolf tickets. Yeah, interesting stuff.
It's a good division, and I think that division is going to give us some good fights over the next few years. I mean, it's a lot of people. I mean, you still got to look at when Lubin comes back as well. Could be a potential player and get some fights, get some scraps in there too. So it's a lot in there. Charles Conwell is also a name to know about too. So I mean, I'm with it for 154.
Yeah, I wonder if all of them gonna run out of there when Boots decides to move up. I don't know. They may all decide that they're going to 60 once Boots. Because I remember when Boots was brought up to Tim Tszyu, and he was like, "Oh, for sure, I made that fight, but by the time he move up, I'll be gone."
I'll be at 160. 160. I might be retired. You never know.
Yeah, that's essentially what he said. So I doubt that they'll be around. Well, maybe a few won't be around. We'll see. But you guys tell us what you think in the comments section in regards to this. Golden Boy looks like they're interested in truly making that fight with Virgil Ortiz versus Terence Crawford, at least according to what I'm understanding from Bernard Hopkins. And there's a lot of other big fights to make there at 154. So let us know what you think. Don't forget to hate, like, comment, and subscribe. This is the Angry Man Podcast, AM Sports Media, and we are out.